In the past months, I've been reviewing all the Star Wars movies in chronological order, and now I have finally finished this long franchise after 2.5 months. So just guess how long it's gonna take to review the Pixar movies or the Muppets, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, or James Bond movies. It will probably take a while. So for now, let's finish the Star Wars marathon by ranking all the Star Wars movies from worst to best. Tell me in the comments how you rank the Star Wars movies. Now sit back, relax, and let's begin. And in last place, Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. Oh my god, this is a horrible movie. The CGI is horrible. The acting is horrible. It's just the worst Star Wars movie I have ever... Wait a minute. This doesn't feel right. Oh, I think my script is scrambled, so the first page gets mixed up with the last page. Sorry about that. But seriously though, Number 11 is Attack of the Clones. This is just an embarrassment to George Lucas. How does this guy come from making movies like American Graffiti, Indiana Jones, and A New Hope to films like Howard the Duck, The Phantom Menace, and this film? This has to be the most boring Star Wars film I have ever seen in my life. And when it gets to the actual action scenes, it's just mixed in with so much special effects and CGI that's very outdated, that's kind of distracting. And out of all the movies on this list, this has to be the one with the worst acting. Now, to be fair, I mean, Star Wars has never really had great acting. I mean, the original trilogy is full of this okay-ish but not great acting. And it is the same thing here.
I don't like sand. It's coarse, rough, and irritating, and gets everywhere. Not like you.
I don't know what the that was.
It's just a mix of the bad dialogue and melodramatic acting, and Hayden Christensen is probably my least favorite actor of all time. Now, there is some good lines here.
Good job.
I thought Ian McGregor has a fun performance as Obi-Wan Kenobi, but this is still a very bad film, and very little to say that redeems it. It's boring, it's full CGI, and has some of the worst acting and dialogue I have seen in my life. So the worst Star Wars movie of all time. Number 10, The Phantom Menace. Now, if you see my YouTube series, Bad Movies, you know that this is a bad film because it was in episode 1 of my series. So that should give you an idea of how flawed this film is. Once again, there's too much CGI in the action scenes and basically all the scenes, and the characters are very annoying. The acting is almost as bad as Attack of the Clones, which is weird because they have very good actors here. They have Liam Neeson, who's in Batman Begins, and Natalie Portman from some other movies I haven't seen. And somehow, they do a bad job. These people have won Academy Awards and Oscars. They won Oscars. And here, they're just so bad at their acting that it's just weird and very hard to watch. These are very good actors, but they don't really have anything to work with. It's not really their fault, it's George Lucas's, as he just writes very bad dialogue and he's not that good with bringing out good acting. Now, the reason I put this higher than Attack of the Clones is simply because it has good action. I think there's like a few good scenes in there. And I thought the third act was great. I mean, as it just had great action. I thought the lightsaber fight was very good. The music really mixed in with the action very well. I really like the music in this movie. And the finale of this film is probably the best Star Wars scenes, one of the best Star Wars scenes of all time. I also thought Darth Maul was a good villain. I mean, he's not in many scenes, but in the scenes he is in, he stands out. It's also not as boring as Attack of the Clones. I mean, there's still a lot of slow scenes, but at least it's not 1 hour of Hayden Christensen talking about how he hates sand. Still, a poorly made film with bad acting and too much CGI. And I just wish the whole film was kind of like the finale. Number 9, The Rise of Skywalker. Now I went back and forth on which is worse, The Phantom Menace or Rise of Skywalker. And even though overall Phantom Menace is the worst film, this is the worst written Star Wars film. And probably the worst lighted. There's a backstory behind it. I recommend you see my review on this film to hear it, because I do talk about it in that video. But to simplify it by showing an old scene from the video. In 2015, J.J. Abrams started the Star Wars sequel trilogy and then added all this new stuff, went into the direction he wanted to go. But then for the second movie, Rian Johnson, I think that's his name, but another director came into the directing chair, and he wanted to change what J.J. Abrams did, change a lot of plot points. Some of the characters act wildly differently from the first film. And even though The Last Jedi is still a good film, it kind of writes itself into a corner, which the third film just would have a hard time recovering from. So then J.J. Abrams directs the third film, and he didn't like what the other director did, so he tries to change it. And then you have this movie that is stitched together. Thanks, past me. So yeah, this film has been victim to creative differences throughout the trilogy and too many cooks in the kitchen. Even though the first two films aren't victim to that, this film is, and it's just like resolving an already broken trilogy when it comes to setting up this film and the writing. I hope I simplified it enough. And this film is really badly written and pasted. I'm not calling J.J. Abrams a bad director. Far from it, he's a great filmmaker. He has made some very entertaining, action-packed, and just great sci-fi films and blockbusters. But here, for whatever reason, it's just badly written and badly acted. I mean, not really badly acted, but considering the first two films had just great acting, this kind of felt like a little bit of a step down. Not a big step down, just a little bit. But also in a way, his obsession with making the film what he wants it to be kind of ruins it. As for most of the duration of the film, he's just stitching up the mistakes from this last movie. Then we get to the small problems, and it makes this film even worse. I thought Palpatine's return is kind of confusing, a little bit of cash grab to make people watch this movie and make the trailers be cooler. And this might sound like a petty complaint, but this film is really badly lighted. There is so much blue in this film. I mean, they just put blue there and blue there. And it's just distracting because they have this bright blue lights in the background. And with someone with dry eyes, all that very bright light coming into your eyes, it's just painfully annoying, and you can barely see the film. Now, there's a reason this is above the Attack of the Clones and the Phantom Menace. And it's simply because it is entertaining. It's still an enjoyable, even by a small margin, enjoyable and entertaining Star Wars movie. and the film has some good action in it. It does pass the time, but if I'm gonna watch a Star Wars movie, I would not pick this one. Number 8, Revenge of the Sith. Easily the best of the prequel trilogy, while still not being anywhere too perfect. This is a film that has a lot of strengths, and I thought there was some surprisingly emotional moments. There was some good writing in the film. I thought it has the best writing of the prequel trilogy. And I thought the ending, Order 66, and the downfall of the whole Jedi Order was all very good scenes that had a lot of emotion to it and a lot of great music to go with it. I love the music in this film. John Williams does his best with these Star Wars movies, and it really shows in this one. But then the problems from the other film starts to come in, and then it kind of pulls it back for me. Is then there's a lot of goofy acting. And CGI-filled action scenes in there. And there's also a lot of stuff that the prequels are known to be bad for that shows up in this film, so you really can't put it any more higher than the mediocre section. It has some well-directed shots, and it does have some emotion in it. I love the action, I really like the music. But it just has the flaws from the prequel trilogy, like the long scenes and a lot of the politics in there, and a lot of the goofy acting that just takes it a step back. It's a mixed film, so I put it in the mediocre section, but I'd still give it a watch once in a while. One of the most mixed films of the Star Wars trilogy. Number 7, Solo: A Star Wars Story. Probably the most forgettable Star Wars movie out there. I still have a fun time watching it. I thought it was good, but the reason it's in the mediocre section is that it's very forgettable. Now, there are some behind-the-scenes dramas like directors being fired and rumors of Han Solo acting like Ace Ventura. And hey, I kinda like to see that. But putting that aside, this film goes the safe route. It's the safest Star Wars film. They don't try to do anything that interesting. And it's kind of obvious that they had to rewrite 70% of the movie. And the end result isn't bad, and it isn't really mediocre, as it is good, just it's forgettable and the safest Star Wars film, not the most straightforward, and it's obvious that they had to rewrite some scenes. I still had some fun with it. I thought Woody Harrelson was a nice standout in the film, and Paul Bettany does an okay job being the villain. There's some good action scenes in there, but again, forgettable action scenes. You don't really care what happens because you know the characters are gonna live. You know that Han Solo and Chewbacca go on to be in the other films, so it really doesn't matter what they're in or what type of action scenes is happening, because you know the two main characters we actually care about are going to survive. The actor who plays Han Solo is kind of mixed for me. On one hand, he doesn't really look like or act like Han Solo from the original trilogy or the sequel trilogy. He doesn't really feel like that character. He doesn't act like that character. But on the other hand, if this person was a totally different character we never met before, like if he wasn't Han Solo, then I think he would have worked. I thought he did an okay performance. He just doesn't act like the character he's playing. At the end, this is probably the most mediocre and forgettable Star Wars movie, but I still had a good time watching it. NumberSix, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. I really appreciate this film on a few levels. I thought this film was a Star Wars movie that felt more like a war movie. It also is the most mature Star Wars movie that actually has high stakes. I mean, Star Wars always had high stakes, but here the characters actually die. There's actually consequences for these action scenes. People actually die. It's not like you can easily just kill a bunch of stormtroopers. No, I mean, this is an actual war movie with realistic timing and high stakes. And I really appreciate it for that. It's the most mature Star Wars movie, and it's also the more war-based Star Wars movie. Now, other people seem to think of this as like the top 5 Star Wars movies of all time. And I get it because it is a good film. I did enjoy it a lot, and I thought there was a lot of well-directed shots and great acting. But jumping off the acting, the characters are very forgettable and just very bland. It has a lot of bland characters, so you don't really remember how they're like. They don't really introduce us to them. They don't have much personality to the characters. The characters are just kind of bland. The bland story and characters holds us back for me, but I still appreciate this good war film. And even though you can kind of tell most of the shots are reshots, I still thought the acting was good. I thought there was some very good directing and had some of the best action from these Star Wars stories, making for the most war-based and most mature Star Wars movie on this list. Number 5, The Return of the Jedi. Now I guess it's gonna be controversial to put this film at number 5.
Oh God! No! God, please, no!
And I get it, it's a classic film, and I went back and forth on whether The Last Jedi or this film should be below it or above it. I kept going back and forth between The Return of the Jedi and The Last Jedi, because I think they're equally good films in different ways. And yeah, this is a classic film, just to make it clear. I like this movie, I find it enjoyable and entertaining. But for the first 2 acts, well, there's 3 acts you can put this. At the beginning, I thought they had some good action. They do a lot of good world building in this film for Star Wars, and it really shows in the first act. I thought the action was good, but at the end it was just a way to get the characters back at the quickest way possible. The middle was kind of mediocre. I mean, it was okay. It wasn't good per se. I mean, it wasn't great. It wasn't bad, but it was just... The thing is, they have a plot that cannot be put in 2 hours and 15 minutes. I mean, the plot is just too short. They go on this mission to take out the second Death Star, and then they defeat the Empire and a few more subplots, and that's it. And it really shows in the middle section where they're trying to find ways to pull this film to 2 hour and 50-minute runtime when it really should be 1 hour and 40 minutes. But then you get to the last hour of the film, or the last 50 minutes, it has the best action of all the original trilogy. I mean, some of the best action, because it's just a great space battle. I thought there was really good action, emotional moments in the last 1 hour. And just the last 1 hour is great, and probably even better than the finale of the first film. And that last 1 hour finds a way to end this trilogy with a good action scene and a few good emotional moments, making it a little bit satisfying. Sure, you wouldn't want this movie to end such a great trilogy, the original trilogy. And even though it's easily the weakest of the 3 of the original trilogy, and the plot is not that great, and they have to kind of stretch some scenes, at the end, I like this movie because it's still enjoyable, and an entertaining Star Wars movie. There's good action, it's entertaining, and it still is a nice adventure movie that can still entertain you and still is very good. Just very flawed. Number 4, The Last Jedi. There's people who absolutely love this film, call it a masterpiece, and people who really hate this film and say it ruins Star Wars. The most mixed film in Rotten Tomatoes. A lot of people just have different opinions about this film. And for me, I think it's good. It's probably the most well shot and well directed Star Wars film. I thought it has the best acting and special effects. So why is it in number 4 if it has a lot of stuff that tops almost this whole trilogy? Well, it's not written that great. I mean, some of the characters have absolutely nothing to do. Some of the characters can be annoying. The casino plotline is easily the worst subplot of any Star Wars movie or movie in general. Just easily the worst part of this film is the casino plotline, which they put a lot of screen time to, and I just really skip the casino plotline whenever I can. I don't really like the way Luke was portrayed in this film, so it still has a lot of flaws, but I appreciate Rian Johnson trying to do something different with this film. It writes itself into a corner at the end, but still is the well-shot, well-directed, and well-written Star Wars film that does a good job. Not the best Star Wars film out there, even though having wonderful qualities, and just very great qualities, it has a few big flaws that just puts it at number 4. Not number 1, but number 4. But before I tell you my top 3 favorite Star Wars movies of all time, tell me in the comments how you rank the Star Wars movies. I like to hear what you have to say about these films and my videos. Number 3, The Force Awakens. This is probably my favorite J.J. Abrams film before he went all nuts about The Last Jedi. This is a great blockbuster and a nice return to a 50-year-old franchise which at the time looked dead. Yet this film does not disappoint. From its spectacular action, to its great acting, to its great characters and complex characters. And not even mentioning the great CGI and great returning characters and new characters, a lot about characters. And its well writing, it just does a very good job putting this franchise back to form in all its glory. And of course, the cherry on top has to be Harrison Ford returning as Han Solo. He still has his charm and fun energy put into the role, and is probably even funnier than he was in the original trilogy, and more charismatic. I think they did a good job with all the characters, you know, new or old. They're all very complex. They all have a lot of moving parts. They all have character arcs and some personalities you can relate to. So they are very entertaining characters that are complex. The writing is good. I mean, you can forgive it for it being a little bit too similar to A New Hope. It still is a fantastic film that was greatly executed. It's a return to a 50-year-old franchise that doesn't lose 1 ounce of its charm. Number 2, A New Hope. This film is the film that started it all. A New Hope is a classic sci-fi film and adventure film. It has great action, ahead of its time practical effects, and a fantastic score by John Williams. It does a good job introducing us to this world of Star Wars, introducing us to these new characters. They give us time to know these characters, know who they are. And this is also probably one of the best films of all time, as they say. It has well-written characters and a great plot to carry it all out. Again, the practical effects is surprisingly good for 1970. I don't know why George Lucas got all obsessed with CGI when he was doing such a good job with all the practical effects. It does have small, and I mean very small problems, like the action, the lightsaber fight not being that great, and some of the acting being so-so. But it still is a classic film that all leads to this great iconic climax, and at the end it's just a very good film that I have fun watching every time. But finally, at number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. To many people, this is one of the best movies of all time, and I agree. Everything I liked about New Hope is doubled. The characters are better, the acting is better, and it has a lot of sad moments in it. I thought having Kirshner, I think I'm saying that right, Kirshner direct the film was a good idea, and he does a really good job. The thing about George Lucas is that even though he creates a lot of good stories, he's not the best of directors. I mean, he's okay, but I mean, he doesn't bring great acting out of his actors. And very recently, he's been obsessed with CGI. But Kirshner is really good. I mean, one of the top tier directors, not top tier like Quentin Tarantino, but he's still very good in this movie, as he knows how to make the movie have emotions and make sure the acting is really good. Put some great great special effects in there and good action, making for all a very well-directed film. And yeah, the action is very good. From its ahead of its time special practical effects and special effects to how it contributes to the plot. Some very good action in here. And it all leads to a great plot twist, which was smartly hinted upon. The writing is great, just leading up to this plot twist was genius. And put that together with all the great writing, acting, and directing, and you have the greatest Star Wars movie of all time. And thanks for watching this video. Please subscribe and click the bell if you want to see more from me. Tell me in the comments how you rank all the Star Wars movies. This has been Scofield Studios, where you're the audience, and cut.